juried one of your shows. Oh, okay. It's just sending me the recording situation. I juried one of your shows a few months back, and I still remember some of the pieces from that show because they were so good. The talent was so good at the level that you guys are producing. So I was really excited to do that for you guys. And now I'm excited to be here tonight to demonstrate for you. And I'm going to kind of scroll through so I can see everyone. But how many people here, if you could just like raise your hand, are pastel artists? I see, yes. I'm scrolling through. Oh, wow, there's quite a few. Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot more in the membership too, for sure.
That's so nice to hear. If you didn't know, pastel is my absolute favorite medium of all mediums. And I started pastels years ago. And the reason I love them is because they're a dry medium that has such a pop of color. The intensity of pastels, I can't get that in any other medium. And I know a lot of you are pastel artists, and I know that you will all cringe when you hear people comparing it to chalk, because we all know that it's not chalk. It's pure pigment with just a little bit of binder. And because it's pure pigment, the colors are just so vivid and beautiful. And we all have our favorite pastels that we love. Some of my favorite are Terry Ludwig, Unison. Love the intensity of the colors in there. And every brand has their own, unique ratio of the pigment to binder. So when you're experimenting with pastels, it's nice to just get like a test sheet and kind of go through each brand to see like the feel of it and what you like about it. Tonight for my demonstration, I'm going to be using Terry Ludwig pastels and one Rembrandt pastel. And I'll show you what the one Rembrandt is, but the rest are all Terry Ludwigs. And Terry Ludwig's is on the creamier side of pastels. They're so soft and velvety. And the richness of color is amazing. You'll see when I start the demonstration how beautiful these colors are. And I mostly do still life. I do portraits as well, but a lot of the work that you've probably seen of mine is still life. And today I'm going to be doing a fig. It's a green fig. And if anyone has any questions before I get started about materials or anything like that, go ahead and just unmute yourself if you have any questions for me.
Yeah, which paper do you prefer?
Okay, so today I'm demonstrating on Wallace paper, but I don't generally use Wallace paper for my finished paintings. I use UArt 400. So that's UArt and then the 400 grit. Or I also really, really love Art Spectrum Colorfix paper. And you spell Colorfix Colourfix. Those papers really hold the pastel beautifully. I have shipped my paintings worldwide. And for any of you who have ever shipped artwork, you know that no matter what is written on there, if it's fragile or whatever, they get handled very rough. And I have had pieces get to Australia with no pastel on the glass at all. And I'm telling you, and I do not use fixatives in my work. I don't use any fixative in my work. What I do is actually, I'm going to run and get a finished painting so I can show you really quick what I do. Hold on. Okay. So here is a finished painting of mine. It's UArt, and I had it mounted on foam core so that it's not like floppy, because you can get pre-mounted UArt, but the problem is they come in specific sizes. So if you need a size that they don't offer, I just go to my framer and get this mounted on like a board, a foam board. And when I'm finished with the painting, I will literally take it like this and like pound the back of it excessively to get any loose pastel dust off now before I frame it. Because you want to get all that off before you put it in the frame so that you don't see like a halo of pastel on the glass when it arrives wherever it is arriving. Mm-hmm. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, I'm going to move my phone over to my easel now so I can get started. So let me, was there a question?
Area is your authority have focused on. This is where they've been throughout the day when they made that announcement that possible human remains were located next to some items belonging to Brian Long.
Explain to us how the Maya hatchery or
Is this like a recording? Is this?
Sorry.
I don't think that was a question. I think that's someone's background noise. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and move to my easel. Okay, so I'm just taking you across the studio and I'm gonna quickly switch the view so that you can see my setup for, oh, nope, sorry. It was right before, hold on. There we go. Okay, so let me get this perfect so you guys can see. All right, so this is the paper that I'm going to be working on. It has that sanded, you can hear it, the sanded like rough texture. This is a scratch paper of Canson. So what I like to do before I start any piece is I like to pick out my color palette ahead of time so that I know the colors that I'll generally be working with. And so I'm going to show you guys on this paper what the color palette I've selected for tonight's demonstration. And I'm going to go from light to dark. So the first one we have, and this is again, all Terry Ludwig. This is just a bright white. This is a Terry Ludwig bright white. And then next we're going with a yellow. And then we have a yellow green. And then we have a dark, it's a really warm yellowish green here. And this one is definitely a cooler color. You see the difference? They're both dark, but this one has a little bit more blue in it. And then we have a brown, and the last, and this is my Rembrandt pastel. And this is a Rembrandt black. This is my absolute favorite dark to use. And I'll put that right at the bottom. So that's my color palette. Now there's some detail work that you're gonna see me do in the stem area here of the fig. And I have some pastel pencils that I've selected for that. And I'll just show you real quick. We've got a brown, green. And for those of you who are using pastel pencils in your work, they're all good, but my absolute favorite is Faber-Castell pastel pencils. I think they're the creamiest of all of the pastel pencils. I'm also going to use a little bit of this yellow, and then lastly, white. So this is where I'm going with the pastel pencils. And the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to be working right here, is I want to put in all of my darks. So I'm going to go ahead and start right over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working from almost like a single light source where the light is coming from this direction. So you're going to see all my highlights on this side and the shadows over here. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm not worried at all about the colors sort of getting, with pastel, when you want to get a precise line, I don't worry about that right in the beginning. First, I'm just putting the color down. At the very end, I go back in and grab all the detail and clean it all up. But first, I just want to put my colors in. So if it gets a little bit messy in this stage, that's okay. So we're just putting in a little bit of this dark color, and it even goes up into the stem area a little bit right there. Okay, and then what I'm going to do next is I want to put, and I don't know if any of you, a lot of people grow figs in New Jersey. I do too in my backyard, and whoops, I have gym floor on the bottom of my studio so that when my pastels fall, they don't break. So I love seeing this almost like brownish color in the figs. So I'm going to exaggerate it more than what it really is. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in. Okay, and next I am going to be putting in that warm kind of green. And you can see how much pastel is falling of the beautiful Terry Ludwig's. Okay, and now I'm gonna go in with a much, much lighter color. And notice that I'm using kind of like a circular stroke here. And the reason why I like to go in circles is it sort of breaks up the pastel layers that are underneath. So I'm going a little bit in here.
Mm.
If I make like a really thick, harsh line, you'll see that. But if I go in circles, it's definitely a more delicate, gentle transition. And I'm gonna have this go all the way up here. And again, this side is gonna have the highlights. So I want to put that green all the way through. And now the highlight on the actual body of the fig comes in right around there. So I'm gonna brighten this whole section up a little bit. Okay, so this is it. This is just me blocking in the color. Now, what I do next is I blend this. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I use my fingers and this is how it works. And now I'm gonna get a brand new glove because you can kind of see that this one has gotten a little dirty. So I'm gonna get a brand new glove and explain how I blend the whole thing. All right. Okay, so so not everybody blends pastels with their fingers. It's my favorite way to blend. So I do a lot of blending with my hands, but I think it's important to note that there is a technique behind blending. It can go wrong very quickly. It can get muddy and messy and you lose one, like I said in the beginning, one of my favorite things about pastel is that it's such a pure pigment. And if you blend wrong, the pigment gets diluted and it starts to look muddy and messy and you lose that saturation of color. So these are your paint brushes. And what you basically are going to do is you're going to have one finger for your shadows, one finger for your highlight, and one finger for your middle value. And if you keep it clean, you'll be able to blend these without losing the beautiful color. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the highlight here. And I'm going to start blending this to get a beautiful, smooth transition between the colors. And again, I go in circles because I feel like it breaks up the pastel in such a beautiful way. And then you don't get harsh lines. And so I'm just going in and I'm starting to blend that really light. And before I get into these middle values, I do want to brighten this up a little bit more. So I'm going to put more of this almost yellow right there. And I'm going to do that again to just lighten up this whole section. And you can start to see as I'm blending some of the softness that I think only pastel can get. It's just such a beautiful soft effect when you blend these colors. Okay, so now that I've gotten this area, I'm going to start moving my way this way. And I'm going to take a different finger and I'm going to start getting my middle value area. And a lot of the middle value is going to come up into this. You'll see as I blend, it's going to start coming up into this area. And that's what creates these nice, the illusion of the round shape. And this part takes a little bit longer than the highlight because you have to be so careful that you end up with a beautiful transition and not just light dark. It should have something right in the middle. That's what gives it that form. And as I'm blending, I'm going in so this shape of this fig is round, right? It's a naturally round shape. So I'm not blending this way or this way. I'm blending this way and this way to keep that form as I go. All right, so we have a general blended here. Now I'm going to go into the shadows and start getting all of that. And again, I'm not too concerned about keeping this like crisp and clean because I'm going to get the background to do that. I'm going to put my background in to make it crisp. I'm just worried about making this appear round right now. And what I want to do, I'm seeing, so before I blend these two areas together, I do want to add a little bit of that beautiful brown. I need more brown in this to bring that richness in. So I'm going to actually go in with that brown Terry Ludwig, put a little bit more here. And then I'm also going to come in and lighten this area just a little bit more. And blend again. And I'm not worried about any, so the fig naturally has like almost like a stripe kind of going in it, but I'm not paying attention to that just now. I'm just getting the form. At the end, when it has, you know, like a three-dimensional form, that's when I go back in and get all the details. Okay. And you can see it's starting to get that form to it, though it's still far from being extremely realistic. We're starting to get into that area of now we can see form. We're starting to see it a little bit come to life a bit more. And I am going to, well, okay. I'm gonna, so my gloves got a little messy. I'm gonna go switch my gloves to get more of this highlight in. But let me first, before I switch out, I'm just going to pull some of this down. So, you know, you're going to see me switching my gloves and cleaning my hands a lot. And that's really the only way to blend. If you stick with the same pair of gloves the whole time, or if you don't designate different fingers to have different colors, you really do dilute the colors and it turns out more gray. Instead, everything gets a little bit grayed out. Okay, and I do want to add like a little bit more brightness into this section. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get into here and put a little more of that in there and then blend that. And I like the way that looks, so I'm going to keep going with that and brighten it even a little bit more. Right there. Okay. So now I still want to brighten this whole section. And so to do that, actually, I think I can, let me see. I can clean this glove to do it. Because I have my Terry Ludwig, where is it? My highlight, and I haven't even put that in yet. And that's gonna go right here. And then I'm gonna soften it so that it's not like just this giant chunk of white. And let me see, I'm gonna try using this glove that I have on now, but if it's giving me too much of the other colors, I'll go switch it. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's fine. It's fine. And for me, when I work from a combination of photographs and I also work from live. The demo I'm doing today was from a photograph. But when I'm photographing, my lighting is like the most important part of the whole process, because the shadow, I mean, the shadows, the highlights, the way the light is hitting the actual objects makes such a difference. And so it's really important that I use the light in a way that helps me tell the story. So like for example, for this piece, and for a lot of the pieces, I almost imagine like they're on stage and there's like this big bright spotlight on them. And then I do the dark backgrounds almost again, like if you're on stage and you have like this moment right in the beginning. That's what the whole series was sort of about with these still lives, was to kind of highlight these fruits and vegetables. All right, so you can see how that highlight is starting to pop and it's starting to take shape. And what I would do at this point, I'm going to just go back in and make sure that yeah, see that little bit of light? It's like these little things that make a difference in these paintings. And so just want to make sure I grab all that detail that I can right here. Okay, now I have to address this whole situation. So, you know, when you have a fig, it's coming up. And usually when I get into these pieces, I like to switch to the pastel pencils. I don't have to. I've done them where I haven't done it with pastel pencils, but I prefer to do it with pastel pencils. So I'm going to do that today. So let me get my pastel pencils. And so it sort of had like this top here, and then it's a lot darker. So I'm going to go in with my dark. And I think it was the way that it was pulled off. There's like a little bit of a angle there. Okay. And a lot of people think you can't use pastel pencils over layers and layers of like the creamy, soft pastels, because it's a harder pastel, obviously, but you can, and it works beautifully. It just has a different, you have to play around with it to see. So right now I'm putting the highlight of, you know, when you have like that edge of something coming up and it catches the light. So this is the area where it was catching the light. I'm just putting that in. So that's just like the edge of that where the light was hitting it, which was so pretty. Okay. And so I'm now using the pastel pencils over all those layers of soft pastel. To add some, and sometimes I leave, like, so again, with the fig, you have some natural lines that tend to show up. And so I don't want to blend this part because I don't want to, I'm working in this like up and down motion, and I want to keep those lines in there. So I'm just going to keep working at this. And you see those lines coming through a little bit? I want that texture in there. So I'm going to leave that texture in there. And then the highlight on the stem was almost like right around here. And I don't even know if stem is the right word. I'm just realizing, I don't know what the top of this is called, but I'm calling it a stem. All right. And then there's this, again, there's this section on the fig that has some interesting detail. It's like, it's probably just a little bit of, and then I'm going to dilute that down a little bit. Just some natural like texture, which is always important to add if you see it because it makes them unique. So it's not just like a, you know, a generic one, but something that you see. Those details make them so unique. That's what I love to put in, all these little details and fun things. I'll put scratches, I'll put like when the skin has little dimples. And down here, I could go a little darker. Okay, so now what I want to do is, remember I was talking about those lines that go in and around. I'm going to start putting those in. So again, this goes on top and not, I don't even think about them when I'm first drawing this. I'm just going to put them right on top. Can you guys see? This is so subtle that I'm wondering if you can even see some of these details going in.
Yeah.
You can. Oh, good. Okay, so now that I've gotten this far, what I want to show you guys is I could probably continue on here, and I would. Normally, there's a lot of cool like textures in the skin that if I have time, let me see, where are we on time? 7:30. So I have like half an hour to show. This goes till 8, right, Sue?
Yes, it goes to 8.
Yes.
Okay, just verifying. Somebody might need to warn me at some point because I get really wrapped up in these and have no idea if time is going over. So let me know. But what I wanted to do is sort of address the background at this point. I want to show you guys how you can make these crisp lines after you've gotten like the general form in. So it's going to seem like I'm messing it up at first because I'm going to put in a dark around this entire piece, and it's going to look like it's floating in this black, like, you know, it's not going to look right. It'll look ungrounded, but I promise I'll address that as soon as I keep going. So first thing I'm going to do is take my Rembrandt black and go all the way up to the very edge. And if my head starts to block, just shout out at me because sometimes I get really close and I forget that the camera might be blocked. So, all right. You see how at this point you can start getting the lines, like you could go out at first and then clean it up. And that's a much better solution than putting your background in, putting this in, and having like this team of paper showing in between your background and your, you know, your still life or your portrait, whatever you're working on. When you can see that little bit of paper showing through, it's so distracting. Even like as a judge, it's one, you could have such a beautiful painting, but it distracts so much when you have that little bit of paper showing through. I'm going to quickly move my palette off because I'm going to need to turn this. So what I'm going to quickly do is, let me get this off and turn it. And the reason I turn it is to generally avoid pastel getting from here, you know, the nature of pastel, it falls. So can you guys still see? Yes. Okay. We had some break, but that's okay. Okay. All right. Okay, and I'll put that one in just a bit. Okay, so when I'm doing these backgrounds, I like to have a dark background, so I'm going to start filling it in, but it's not just Rembrandt black. I'll show you guys in just a second. And you can probably hear, at this point, I have a pretty heavy hand. You can probably hear the scratching and see the pastel falling. And I'll try to stop like 5 minutes before so I can show you. In my studio, I have, okay, wait, hold on. Let me pause that thought. I take another dark, so not just Rembrandt black, but I take another dark and I put it right on over the entire thing. When you mix the black alone, it's really hard to fill the tooth of the paper. You'll be there like almost like scrubbing it in forever. When you mix it with another color and you blend, it just goes so smooth. And so, you know, you don't have, obviously you don't have to do black, but whatever background that you do, when it's more than one color, when the pastels are mixed together like that, it makes it so much easier than when you're trying to just do, if I had just done the one, it would be so hard for me to fill the tooth of the paper. And so that's why I do that. And now I'm going right up against and softening these edges so that, again, you don't see any of that background paper coming through. All you see is the fig and then the background, nothing in between. All right, so we're almost done there. And now I'm just using my left hand to get the side, because for some reason we all have our like strengths, and what me trying to do this way just doesn't work. So I just go in with my left hand. Clean that up. Okay, I won't get too nitpicky here because otherwise you'll just be watching me do this for half an hour. So I'm going to turn it around. I'm just using painter's tape on the back of these. to keep it up, but I think I lost one. So hold on 1 second. There we go. All right, can still see, yes. Okay, so now I'm gonna continue that again, going down. And this is what's, okay, so oops, this is what's left of my Rembrandt at this point, but I have like a whole drawer full of these. So as soon as this one is done, there is another one ready to go. I might have to run and get it because it's really little now. Hold on, let me just at least get that line in. Oh, and I was saying earlier, I'll try to stop early so I can show you how I organize my pastels in my studio. That's one of the cool things about having this be virtual, is that I can actually show you that. And I do think having your pastels organized makes it so much easier when you're painting. I'm adding that dark kind of bluish color that I did earlier up there as well to make the black blend easier. Just cleaning up those lines. And there's like a little bit of, I think, some pastel that fell earlier. So I'm just gonna go over that so you can't see it. There you go. I'm gonna get all of this. Okay, so now we have a floating fig that's just floating in the middle of black. So we have to fix that and we have to address that. But first, I'm just going to clean up all these lines on the bottom to make sure they're smooth. Okay. Okay, and also, whoops. What I'd like to do before I continue is I need to darken a lot of that. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take some of this background on my fingers. Look at my glove. It's like this now, but I'm going to use this. I'm not going to add any actual pastel. I'm going to use the dark that's on my glove to go in here and start darkening this whole section down here. And it's going to lighten my background. So I'm going to have to go back into my background, but it also softens this whole edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to go back in with my back. Uh-oh, did I lose that teeny tiny black? Oh, no, I got it still. Okay, hold on. Let me just get right here. Still want to darken all of that. Okay, now I'm going to come back in, get that line back that I lost. Oh, wow, it sounds like church bells. I don't know what that was. Okay, so now I'm gonna clean that up. And then after I'm done cleaning this up, we will say goodbye to the floating fig and ground it. Okay. So now, so sometimes when I'm doing these backgrounds, I have it, if it were like a bright overhead spotlight, I have, almost like a shadow that looks like this with light streaming on both sides. This one was sort of coming in at an angle. I want to say like more like that. So not like so much like that, but more coming in from this side. So we're not having as much of that sort of an effect. So I'm going to see some of the reflection. I want to pretend that this was almost like you could see some of the green coming down into here. And I'm going to take this, hold on, where's my green? Okay, I'm going to take this dark green first. Put it there. And then I'm going to take the lighter green and I'm going to blend it. And this is good. This is a process that takes a little bit of time. So it doesn't happen right away. You have to keep working at it to get it to have that reflective. So it's layer by layer. So we're going layer by layer until we get just the right amount of reflection. And you can start to see it's starting to come, but you need to go, it needs more. So we're going to do that again. Okay, and now because the highlight's right there, I do want to make that part a little bit lighter. So I'm going to just use the same colors that I used, but I am going to dilute it down a little bit. And again, I purposefully haven't changed my gloves because I do want that dark to blend right in there. So I'm leaving my dark black gloves and this, okay, so I'm going to show you guys something. Can you kind of see it's like a little bit chunkier here? Can you see that? Like it's not as smooth of a transition. That happens sometimes when certain pastels have a binder, the ratio of the binder or, it's just not blending in very well. So what I do then is I actually take a pastel pencil to break up whatever is causing it to clump up like that. And you will see that Terry Ludwig's do this. They sort of clump up, and to fix that, if you get like a really clumpy section, take a pastel pencil and go right over the area that was clumping up and then blend it and it will take out, it's gone, that now it's smooth and you won't have any more clumps. Because that happens sometimes, like if you're in the middle of a portrait and you get one of these pastels that just, you can see it, it's like this little texture and you can't get rid of it. But if you take a pastel pencil and you just keep working in that area, it slowly starts to take it away. So it's almost completely gone. And I'm just going over it one more time, that area that clumped up. And I'm going to soften that again, and it should be gone now. Yes, look at that. It's so smooth. So it took it right away. All right, so we can start to see there's a reflection coming down. And I do want to get some of that like light coming in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab one more pastel really quick. If anyone has any questions, just yell them out to me. Okay. All right, I picked these two. I always like to have like one lighter and one darker. I'm putting it close. To add some light behind this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first put in this. And I'm going to start blending that as if there's a light coming behind. So let me get hold on. And I'm going to do it one more time. I'm actually going to blend it a little bit into this and then go back over that so that it's more connected. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And then I'll go back in and really clean this all up. Okay, so I'm just going back and forth to kind of smooth this whole area out. Then I'm going to go back in and get that highlight to come down again. And also, let me grab it's a little bit dark. It needs to, you know, when you're sitting at something sitting on the bottom, there's a natural shadow that just comes a little bit, even if the light is not directly making a huge shadow, you'll still see a little bit of it underneath. And so I'm going to put that in right underneath. And I'm going to do that one more time. And you can see how it's starting to give a little bit of that shadow underneath that makes it feel like it's sitting on something. And I'm just going to do it one more time because I like the way that looks. And extending it a little bit further that way. There we go. And I'm going to go back in because this area, my finger sort of nudged it. So I'm going to go back in and get that reflection. Sorry about the squeaking. I can hear my pencil squeaking on the, okay, I'll stop that. Okay, now we're starting to see that green coming through. And it's all these like subtle colors and in the shadows that kind of make it come to life a little bit more. So at this point, what I would do is I would clean up some of these. I'm going to take my gloves off. I would clean up some of these like lines right there. I would clean up some of the lines right here. And also add a lot of more texture. So I put a few of these like lines in here. I'm going to put a lot more and also get, there's like little, what is it called? Dimples and things like that in here, like some dots that I want to put in. And then after that, I would call it done. So that's where I'm going to stop this portion of the demonstration. And I think I have like a few minutes left to show you my pastel boxes, right? I have time.
Sangita, yes, don't worry. We're not going to cut you off at 8 o'clock immediately. Please
Okay.
continue.
Sometimes
Don't
these
worry
Zoom
about it.
meetings just shut off at 8 and I'm like in the middle of a thought. So I wanted to make
No,
sure
no,
that.
no. You're fine. You're fine.
Okay, before I move you guys, does anyone have any questions about this?
Do you ever use pan pastels?
So occasionally, but not that often. I do love them in certain, like sometimes what I do is when I'm wearing gloves, right? And if I want to add a color, like let's say I wanted to add just like a touch of this, right? I'll take my finger and I'll just rub here and then put it on. So you can do that same concept with pan pastels as well. You could sort of like rub a little bit with your hands. I'm not as big of a fan of the tools. So like the sponges and the, all the like things that come with the pan pastel sets, they give you a beautiful array of tools and things to use them. I just like to use my hands. And so I could use pan pastel in that way, but for a more traditional use of pan pastel, which with the sponges and everything, I don't use it in that method. Does anyone else have any questions? No. Okay, so then I'm going to quickly bring you guys over to, let me just move something really quick. Okay, I'm going to move you guys over to pull you here and flip you. Hold on. Okay, so these are boxes that you can get. I got mine at Jerry's, but I'm pretty sure they're sold everywhere. And you can organize and they fully come out. So all of these are filled by color and also by brand. So you can see I put all of my Terry Ludwigs together in one section because I feel like having them categorized by brand is so important because they all have different, unique little qualities to them just because the amount of binder that each manufacturer puts in a pastel is different. And so I do keep it by brand. And then I also have my pastel pencils up here. And again, they're generally by like hue, but they get a little mixed up as we go. So, and then I have my Rembrandt. Oh wait, these are the new pastels that I keep in here. And then I think I've got Rembrandt down here. So these are all my Rembrandts that I keep down here. And I used to keep all of my pastels like in the boxes that they came in. And the only thing I'd say the negative about that is if you do have a lot of pastels, you take what's on top because it's such a pain to go through all of those boxes. But to have it open and being able to fully pull these boxes out makes it so easy to choose your color palette. And so when I'm teaching workshops, I think the thing that most of my students struggle with the most is what colors do I select? Where do I how do I even get the right colors? That's the biggest question and the most concern I hear from students is that. And I have to tell you, if you have it organized, it makes it so much easier because you're not thinking in the back of your head, like, oh, wait, I think I had that one lavender from that one set. Let me go back and get it. It's more just pick your colors and walk away so that you don't have to keep going back and forth and back and forth. And so these boxes are awesome. And so I got them from Jerry's, but again, I think you can get them anywhere. I think you can get them probably from like Dick Blick or wherever you choose to shop. They come in like 3 drawers or 4 drawers. The 4 drawers don't fit pastels, so you have to get the 3 drawer one. The 4 drawer ones are generally for like pencils, colored pencils, and that sort of stuff. But these fit, even the chunky pastels fit. You can't put the Terry Ludwigs this way. You have to put them flat that way, and they fit perfectly. So that's pretty much it. That's all I've got for you. I'm going to switch it back to me. Hold on one second. Okay. All right. So I'm all done for tonight. If anyone else has anything they want to add.
Do you ever use to get the blended background? Do you ever use alcohol washes?
I don't use any, and it's okay to do that. There's a lot of pastel surfaces that accept watercolor or any sort of, like washes that you want to put on there. I just like to use pastel. I use 100% pastel in the entire painting. So there's nothing else underneath. I like to put my backgrounds in pastel as well.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Karen. What do you sharpen your pencils with? Oops. That was amazing.
Sorry about that.
What do you sharpen your pastels with?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
What do you sharpen your pastels with?
Okay, so I just use a regular blade. Like I can go grab mine. I just use like a regular blade that you like cut box open. And I know it's like a pain because everyone's hoping for a better like pencil sharpener that's easier to do. I've tried all the ones that have been recommended. There's a gold one.
Me too.
There's like this gold one on Amazon that everyone swears by. It's okay. It's not like I end up doing this and then sandpaper. So.
Okay, good. Thanks. Your
You're
demonstration
welcome.
has been great. I've learned so much. Just your techniques. I'm going to steal them.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really, really good. I'm very impressed with your work.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sangita.
Oh, you're very welcome. And if anyone has any questions, you can email me if anything wasn't answered tonight.
Are you going to be doing any more workshops?
Yes, I have one more scheduled for 2021. It's a Saturday, December 4th, and it's a one-day workshop. It's virtual, and it's on my website. So my website is my first name, last name.com. So it's www.sangita, SANGITA, and then my last name, PHADKE.com. And if there's a tab up there that says workshops, then you can go to the tab and just register right there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, you're marvelous.
Oh,
Thank you.
so
It was a
much.
pleasure.